lesson planning, and student engagement.
Student First works within the guidelines of the school, and every school has its own policies and way of doing things. And each teacher within any particular school may have its own way of doing things. And so, and a lot of it's experimenting. What training works in one school would not maybe work at another school because the student body isn't interested. I mean, just an example, I have one school we work with. They are the highest poverty rate of any of the schools we deal with. The students have no supervision, they have no support after they leave, and those students really have a hard time. And so, helping them to learn to support each other is a hard task, and that's tough when they haven't been taught that, because that gentle support that people can give to help motivate you and help you achieve your goals, they've never seen or never had. And so you're trying to teach something that's like a foreign language to them. I'm a firm believer in this. You can go in there and teach people stuff, right? And they're okay with that, whatever stuff, disability, history, advocacy. You can't teach them stuff because they don't learn that way. So if you want to teach them, like you're going to do disability history this week, next week you're going to want to engage them. You're going to want to have them do a team activity that's fun and exciting, because you got to keep it mixed up, otherwise they get bored. And the problem, if once you do a school, like again, you start at 9th grade, you have young people, the next year you have the same student, now that curriculum's no good. And I know you don't like to hear this, that curriculum's no good because now the students have seen it, they're bored during that curriculum. And there's an exception, some of the marshmallow towers and the building things.
Towers.
Right, they like that stuff, but once they know it, then they become a disruption to the class because they're not interested in it no more. So you always got to keep it going. And it even gets harder when those students move to your transition program, because now, so you got 6 years, so you figure that's 180 lessons for that student you got to come up with over his 6 years. That's a lot of lesson planning. So modifying lesson plans. If this is a good example of modifying, so I took that lesson plan and I modified it to fit your guys' needs today. Those are not the question I asked 9th graders in school. But so some of the lessons can be modified to adapt to your class. And the only way to know that is to know your students. And you guys, did everybody get to see this? So you guys will know your classes as you know your classes. Does that make sense? Yeah, and unfortunately, every year's different. Like one year, this class may be so pleasant and so friendly and play so nice in the sandbox. The next year, it's a cage match. So it's just how it is. As students change, the personality of the clubs change. And so again, it's adapting. So modifying lessons. A lot of these lessons can be simply modified just by changing them a little bit. And as, in the beginning you won't have to, but as you become an expert, which you will, you'll learn how to modify it to fit the needs of your class. So I talked about this a little bit, picture exchange system. This year, we're not doing a lot of that, but in a lot of years, last year, I would make little pictures for folks that are non-verbal. I don't like non-communicative, because with the right tools, they are very communicative. And they are very verbal too, even though they can't talk. And so the pictures will represent their needs or the topic. Depending on the topic, you'll have just a little flashcard, and that will represent them. And you'd be surprised how smart some of these kids are. It just blows my mind. There's nothing they can't do. It's us that have the problem. We don't know how to teach them. I've learned that. So modifying things like the PECs, so they have pictures for the needs, yes and no, and sometimes it's slowing down enough to hear what they're saying. Does that make sense? We get so fast sometimes that we really don't listen. And the more you're around somebody, the better you can understand them. It's not them that has the problem talking to you, it's you that has the problem listening to them. Does that make sense? Okay? So hand-over-hand support. So when you're doing some activities, you actually help them achieve the activity, hand over hand, just like I said. So you help them pick it up, you help them put it into place. Give us an example of that, Michelle. You're good at that.
So when we were doing marshmallow towers last year, we were working in small groups. I was working with this nonverbal girl, and so I was using hand on hand, hand over hand. All she was doing was picking up a toothpick and giving it to somebody else, because when we're doing a group activity, we want everyone included. If only they could pick up toothpicks and give it to someone else, then that's fine. If they could put marshmallows on toothpicks, that's fine.
Yeah, everybody can do something. And that's what we're teaching. Everybody can do something. And so if you're doing group exercises, and if you have a couple of students that are sitting over here out of the way because they can't participate, then you're doing it wrong. Everybody can do something in an exercise. And if you can't develop a lesson that everybody can do, that's the wrong lesson for that class. So accommodations, allow the students and encourage them to use communication devices. So have you ever been into a classroom where a student has a communication device and don't use it? So you got to encourage them to use that communication device, and that does require for us to slow down a little bit and sometimes help them get the information into the communication device. And a lot of people are now using iPads as a device, which is great. I have one student I work with. As long as I give the lesson ahead of time, she can put her information in there, and then she can still use her voice during the class. She's not able to do it during the class, but with a little extra time, she can do it. And that's what we're all about, is learning how to accommodate the needs of our students. Okay, we're going to do a team exercise. So one of the concepts behind this is not only a team building exercise, it's also how well people can follow instructions. So and I'm not going to get to the rules. So they actually process the rules, come up with how they're going to do it. So people get to talk about it before you ever open it. You don't get to open it until I say go. But you're going to read the instructions. You guys are going to figure out what you're going to build. And you can build anything you want. And I tell you what, I've seen some pretty creative things built.
And this activity is in the team building activity
Correct.
section? Okay.
Yes.
It's been a long day.
Quality of teamwork is to get everybody involved. Everybody counts to get involved in these type of assignments we do.
So yep, there you go. Fold in half. Good. Fold in half again, or the long way. There you go. Right.
Just in case. Stop trying to make us lose.
My team member said to make smaller pieces, so I always listen to Tyrone.
Yeah, Tyrone.
Yeah.
It's called the Window of Hope.
Hey, yep.
The window of hope. I like that.
All right, should we try it? Close it up.
This is an envelope we made with a stamp. It's to student first from the bank, and inside we put all the extra papers in there as the money that we're giving student first. And it closes like that, and it gets mailed.
Oh, that's a workable.
Yeah, it's a workable envelope.
It's a team. Team effort.
Yes, yes. Everybody worked on together.
It's a what? Unity across America. So we have the big circle of unity that combines everybody, and then a big happy face. Out of that. It's a face. I promise.
Did everybody look at everybody's? Yes. Okay, so what's the name? What is this?
Unity across America.
Okay, all those who think that we're judging the most creative, and who thinks the Unity Across America is the most creative? Let's see hands if you think it's the most creative. You got one. Okay. You guys ain't going to vote for yourself?
I don't think it's the most creative.
Okay. No. And so did you hear that? And the students are the same way. They said, I don't think it's the most creative. And this is the same thing in the schools. So we have an What is this, an envelope?
An envelope with money, and it's a usable one. And it's to student first. Yes.
Right, it's an envelope to Student First with a huge donation. So how many think this is the most creative?
Of course we can. Well, yes, we were creative.
Okay, we have a peace sign, Will, right? Or just a peace sign?
Yeah.
Okay, who thinks this one's the most creative?
I'm still
Brian's been
Four? Okay.
Some of the members, you're voting for everything.
All right, the window of hope. Who thinks this is the most creative? Guess what? Our envelope won unanimously. And it's the same thing. The students also vote on what they think is most creative. I mean, I tell you what, some of the things, we had one classroom, they built a carriage that actually rocked with a baby doll that went inside of it. Oh, yeah. What were some of the other things? Oh, Michelle.
There was a volcano.
Yeah, they built a volcano and they put paper inside of it, and when they squeezed it, it erupted.
Somebody built an actual rose.
Oh, it was gorgeous too. They built
I have a picture of it.
a rose, and it wasn't just a rose, it was a 3D rose.
Oh my God.
I
And I did that within
Well, they get a half hour, but I wanted it to be done by 4 today, so. Yeah, normally you guys would have had 15 more minutes, but to stay within our timeline, I figured you're adults, you can do it in 15. But can you see where this gets students excited? Absolutely, and this is one of the things you gotta, if you're gonna teach them something serious one week, give them something exciting the next week. Never give 2 serious things back to back, because your club deteriorates.
If you would like more information about Student First and starting a club, contact Donna Larry at pfow@clarkston.com. EPIC is a grant of national significance. It stands for Equal Partners Interstate Congress. And if you're interested in more information about leadership and self-advocacy, contact EPIC. You can contact Noah, Noah, @arcwa.org.